about to get real good at intros because I've tried it about 30 times tonight.
That way, yeah. Way.
Good evening, guys. My name is Ashley, and I am here to talk to you about things that scare me. This is the third part of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 1974 film deep dive that I've been doing, and I'm really excited to talk to you about this. I feel like it might be the part I know the best as far as research and just being fascinated by it. And don't get me wrong, Ed Gein totally has scared me since I was in high school. But yeah, this is the part I'm really excited to talk about. Now, before I start, I did want to ask very kindly if you guys would take a moment to like the video and subscribe to the channel if you have a YouTube account, which you totally should. Also, I would love, I'm going to ask so nicely if you guys would leave a comment on what you would like for me to talk about next week. I have no idea what I'm going to talk about next week, so in the next 2 days, depending on what people say, I would love to find some story. I will research it for you. The research that I've done on this video is all things I've done at home on my own with my Google with my computer. So please feel free to do your own research, but this is just my own research. So trust the blonde if you will. So last week we started talking about Ed Gein and how he influenced Tobe Hooper, the director of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, how he influenced who he created Leatherface to be. Then earlier this week we talked about Elmer Wayne Henley and how he and Dean Corll kind of influenced the family vibe that goes on in the movie The Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Okay, so I don't have an official number of all the fun things I'm going to talk about because I did watch some videos and they were like the 10 most fascinating things of this and that. I just want to talk to you about things that doesn't really matter the number, but things that really kind of bothered me. It's not that they bothered me, but things that I was like, oh, you did that for that movie. So, and please know, this isn't like a in a bad way. It's like a, that is so crazy. So let's start with some of the things that shocked me about the making of the movie Texas Chainsaw Massacre, 1974, Tobe Hooper's version. The first thing that I wanted to talk about was how Tobe Hooper decided, I'm really excited to say this, is how Tobe Hooper decided he should use a chainsaw for the movie and make it kind of the main weapon, if you will. Tobe was in a department store around Christmas time and it was very busy. Foot traffic to get out of the store was crazy. And he was in the hardware part of this department store. He looked over and he saw a chainsaw on the wall and he was like looking at this line of people to get out the door and then looking at the chainsaw and he was like, I think I know how to get out of here very quickly. I don't know why that's so funny because clearly it didn't happen. It was just like I would assume he's just joking with himself, but he did go home and he kind of, that thought kind of stewed in his head, and that is where he decided, you know what, a chainsaw can be used as a pretty scary weapon, and so that's where he got the idea to use the chainsaw in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Another thing that I thought was crazy, but this blew my mind with the movie Jaws as well, is at the time in 1974, there was no PG-13 rating. So Tobe Hooper, so that he could have a wider audience see this movie, he was really shooting for a PG rating with Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And what? This scares me as an adult woman. I'm not gonna go throw this onto my kid. No. I'm just saying. Now my son, he may watch it, but my little one, no, she is not. It's not gonna happen. I originally thought this idea was really crazy, but they did give Jaws a PG rating, and that's true. Because whenever I found out Jaws was PG, I'm like, why is Jaws PG? That's at least PG-13. but there was no PG-13 rating at that time. So that's how Jaws got the PG rating, and why Tobe Hooper was trying so hard for his movie, The Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Now, he actually cut out a lot of the gore. If you think about it, when you watch it, you'll actually realize they leave a lot of it to your imagination. You don't actually see almost any of these things happen to these people. It's just, and that almost makes it more horrifying, even though he was going for the opposite effect of this won't be so scary for people if they don't actually see it. But then when our brains are like, let's assume the worst. Needless to say, he did not get a PG rating. He actually got an X rating originally, but then they later changed it to an R rating. So due to a limited budget, this movie was filmed in 32 days in the Texas heat. It sounds like there was very little sleep on set, and so they were filming the final scene, and the guy who played Grandpa, it took hours to apply his makeup. When they got his makeup on, he told them, I'm not doing this again. All my scenes, they're getting done right now. Like, we're gonna do every single scene because I'm not gonna sit and have my makeup done. He would never have made it as a woman, I'll tell you that right now. We spend way too much time on our makeup. Not all of us, some of us. I like makeup, I'll be honest. I love, not every day, but occasionally. Anyway, besides the point. He didn't want to sit through that makeup process to become Grandpa again. They filmed all the scenes, and the final scene they shot with him was the dinner scene. Now, the dinner scene is probably the most iconic part of this entire movie, and it is very, very eerie because it's so... The characters are so desensitized to the feelings of the people they have captured, which the people being Sally at this point, who's kind of the main girl in the movie. And they're filming this scene, the dinner scene, over and over and over again. After over 24, 25, 26 hours, I believe I heard 27. It was about 27 hours of filming. The final part of that scene is they were trying to cut Sally's finger and let some blood out so Grandpa can drink the blood of the young girl. So, which is gonna be like tiny finger prick, but that's the goal for them. That's their thing. So I don't know why that's their thing, but that's their thing. There's the Sawyer family. They're the Sawyer family, by the way. Gunnar Hansen, who played Leatherface, got so sick and tired and hot, just out of his mind from shooting for 27 hours straight. Pocket knife he was using had been covered with tape to dull the blade, and they had a little bulb attached so that when he would pretend to cut Sally's finger, then a little bit of blood would come out. Well, the blood kept clotting from the heat and just the lack of a good prop, because they were on such a budget, that finally, when he was so sick and tired of shooting this so many times, he, unbeknownst to the actress playing Sally, took the tape off of the pocket knife. When they said action, he actually, without her permission, cut her finger, let it bleed, and I'm not 100% for sure, but I'm thinking Grandpa drank her blood. Gross, I spit. Oh God. That's so gross. Look in her face when this happens is sheer terror, and I'm pretty sure it's real. So there's that. Another thing to note is that they didn't use fake props in this movie. They didn't have the money to purchase the fake props. Their crew was actually gathering roadkill. They went to a local slaughterhouse for blood, like the blood from the slaughterhouse, and put it on the walls. So they had dead carcasses around and roadkill. Oh, they also used real human bones. They purchased these from India because at the time, those real bones were cheaper than paying for actual prop bones. So the bones you see on set, real. The carcasses from the roadkill, real. The blood on the walls, it's not from people, it's from the slaughterhouse, but it's real blood. Now that dinner scene I was just talking about, they spent so much time shooting it. And while it's supposed to look like that's shot at night, it was actually, well, 24 hours. It was shot during the day and at night. And it was so hot in the house that the actors would have to, and the crew would have to run to the window, puke, because it stunk so bad and it was so hot and they were just so tired, get a couple breaths of fresh air and come back in and keep filming. I'll tell you what, I'd have done it if I could have been in this movie back then, even though I wasn't alive. I'd have done it if I'd have known it was going to be such a cool movie. One of the things I love about this movie, and I feel like I have a humor like this, is I guess I laugh maybe in uncomfortable situations. It's just like, I mean, like at funerals, and I'm not like bursting out laughing, but instead of crying, I just have this weird way of dealing with things that bother me by laughing, because that's just how I am. It's not a lack of empathy, because trust me, I'm super sensitive. I tend to try to self-comfort by laughter, and one of the things I love about what Tobe Hooper was trying to bring to the screen, and he actually said that it just flopped when he did this, but is what he called red humor. So red humor is kind of like inappropriate humor, or I'm gonna give you an example. To set the scene, Leatherface is chasing a girl out of the house, and he's like cutting through the door, and he's like, he's not gonna even open the door, he's just gonna cut right through it. And like, one of the members of the Sawyer family come up to the door, and they're like, look what your brother's done to the door. Like, that's the biggest concern of what's going on to them right now. That would be a great example of red humor, is it's real inappropriate for the moment. Tobe Hooper was so pumped about this. He said he watched an audience watching his movie, and he was so pumped for this line to come up, you know, look what your brother's done to the door. He was like, oh, here it comes, oh, they're gonna laugh. No one laughed. I think they were all terrified. He said he was so disappointed, and I probably wouldn't have laughed either at that time, but now looking back and seeing it a couple times, I'm like, oh yeah, that's a good one. It's the door. The door's the door. You're gonna replace that door. Anyway, I got what he was going for. So he said when he directed Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, which those are the only two he did direct, but he like threw that red humor into that movie so strong, because he was like, oh no, I'm gonna shove it down their throats now, like they're definitely gonna get my red humor now. Another thing I totally love that Tobe Hooper did, he just didn't want to have any rules when it came to this movie. So for example, in another scary movie, if someone gets, oh my gosh, I'm sorry for this example, but if someone gets electrocuted, another person's not going to. Like, you kind of have a thrill and then you're done with it. Or if someone falls through the floor, they're not going to do it again. It was a one-time deal. And one thing he wanted to do was break the rules and be like, I'm not going to follow your pattern. Well, Sally's going to not just jump through a glass window once, Sally's going to jump through a glass window twice. Whenever it's appropriate, she's going to jump through something. I like that he did that. I thought it was like, yeah, that's true. It's well, they don't always repeat stuff. They try to keep you shocked. So I like that he did that. Another thing that Tobe Hooper did do, and it actually really annoyed some people, and I'll tell you what, it got me. But at the beginning of the movie, you all see the Star Wars type like narrative come up, and it's talking about this is a true story of 5 people and blah blah blah, and you're like, oh my, I'll have to research this later after this movie's over. I need to know what this is all about. So that wasn't true. And that actually tactic was used to draw in more crowds. And you have to remember, Google wasn't available when this movie came out. So to just look this up, I'm not even sure how you would have looked that up if you'd like to make fun of me for being so outdated on the 70s, but I don't know how you would just look up all the crimes. So yeah, that wasn't true. It was totally done to draw in the crowd. Now again, we know that Leatherface is inspired by Ed Gein, and the family and Leatherface are inspired by Elmer Wayne Henley and the mess he was involved in, but this isn't true. Another movie that used the same exact tactic, The Blair Witch Project. Did anyone fall for that one? Because I knew that wasn't the footage, but I totally fell for it. Oh, and I also thought that the first Paranormal Activity movie, y'all have to excuse me, I thought that was so real. Not that I thought the movie was real, but they put that clip in there about how like the cops really are thankful that they've turned over this footage, and I was like, that is crazy. I sound like an idiot. I know I do. I just hook, line, sinker. I want to believe everybody. I just want to believe everybody's telling me the truth. It's terrible. It's terrible to be such a trusting person. I have 2 more things I really want to mention. The house that this movie was filmed in Texas, was actually picked up and relocated to Kingsland, Texas. Now, Kingsland, Texas, I believe it's about an hour from Austin. And the reason I think this is so cool is because my parents actually lived in Kingsland, very small town, and I loved it. It was on Lake LBJ. They turned it into a cafe, and my mom was like, do you want to go have lunch? Now, my mom knows I like scary movies, but I think she's realized this maybe more within the past couple years, and this has been maybe 5 years ago. She's like, would you like to go have lunch at the Grand Central Cafe? I'm like, sure, that sounds great. And we go there, and it's the Texas Chainsaw Massacre house. I didn't realize it at the time. And when we get in there and I start seeing like their decor, because they definitely are really proud that this house was picked up and moved, but once the set of this classic horror film, I was like, this is so cool. I'll have the buffalo chicken sandwich, please. So we ate lunch there. It was awesome. And I do have a picture. I know my daughter Lily's gonna kill me, but she was scared. So this picture, it's in the doorway of where you first see Leatherface from the movie. And he slams open the door. And Lily knew this because we told her, and she didn't want to stand in this doorway. Like, she was scared. And it's all nice now. But you can also go up the stairs, and they have tons of pictures from the movie. So they're definitely trying to keep the memory of the movie alive in this place. But it's been completely redone into an adorable little cafe. And it's called the Grand Central Cafe. And I actually have my favorite mug that I've been drinking out of. I have a lot of mugs that are important to me, but this one is, if it's clean, it's my go-to every single day, because I actually, and it sounds like I'm so obsessed with this movie, but it's I don't know, it's special to me. It's really special to me. One, because my mom took me there, and two, because it's from the actual house that the movie was filmed in. The last thing I want to tell you is maybe a fact about the movie that not everyone finds as exciting as I do, but I feel like it's absolute genius. Toby Hooper was saying that something that was to him like a wow, you know, I really cool I'm doing it this way, and I totally agree with him, is that he put his monster in a mask. And I just thought that was really, really cool. And now we have Michael Myers and we have Jason Voorhees, but these came after Leatherface. And so I just love that he took what was supposed to be a real person, but a monster, and masked them. I don't want to forget this. Toby Hooper said when he was a kid, he had family in Wisconsin, and he would go visit them. His family living in Wisconsin were telling him about the Ed Gein situation and how that was in the news and what was going on. And he said as a kid, he was just like, I'm so scared. I'm scared as an adult woman, but I thought that was really neat that he kind of hung on to that. I mean, I'm still hanging on to the Ed Gein thing. I told you I was researching him in high school. That's about all I have for you guys. Now, this is a little shorter of a video, but we are tying up this 3-part Texas Chainsaw Massacre deep dive. And I'm really, really glad I got to do this. I'm really excited about some of the new information I learned personally. Please don't forget to like this video. Every single like does help me. Please don't forget to subscribe to my channel. That means just as much, if not more. And please don't forget to comment if you have something you'd like me to research. Thank you guys so much. You have the best afternoon. You have a great Father's Day weekend. And I appreciate your time so much. And yeah, peace out.